Captain Lisa Martinez felt the cold metal bite into her wrists as the energy shackles locked around them. The alien ship's deck was smooth under her knees where she had been forced down. Her uniform was torn and bloody from the fight that had brought her here. The taste of defeat was bitter in her mouth. 3 hours ago, she had been commanding the Earth Defense Force patrol ship Valiant. They were hunting pirates in the Outer Rim sectors, a routine mission that had turned into a nightmare. The ambush came without warning. Green energy beams tore through the Valiant's shields like paper. Her crew fought hard, but they never had a chance. Lisa watched helplessly as escape pods launched from her dying ship. Most of them made it away before the Valiant exploded in a ball of fire and metal. At least her people were safe. That was something. Now she was a prisoner aboard a ship that looked like nothing Earth had ever built. The walls curved in impossible. Ways and strange lights pulsed along the ceiling. The air smelled different here, thick with chemicals she could not name. Everything felt wrong. The creatures that had captured her were not like anything from Earth's databases. They stood 8 feet tall on 2 legs, but their skin was covered in golden scales that caught the light. 4 arms extended from their broad shoulders, each ending in hands with too many fingers. Their heads were long and narrow, with eyes like black glass that seemed to see everything. One of them stepped forward. A device around its neck began to speak in English, though the voice sounded flat and mechanical. "I am Admiral Zexthiel of the HFY Consortium," it said. "You are Captain Lisa Martinez of the Human Military Force." It was not a question. Lisa lifted her chin and stared back at the alien. "That's right. And you just committed an act of war against the Earth Defense Force." The translator made a sound that might have been laughter. "War? You misunderstand your situation, human. Your species exists at our sufferance. We could erase your little planet with a thought." Other aliens moved around the edges of the room. Lisa saw creatures with blue fur and huge eyes, things that looked like walking trees, and beings made of what appeared to be living crystal. All of them watched her with the same look. She had seen that look before, in the eyes of people who thought they were better than everyone else. "Your kind has been expanding through space for barely a century," Admiral Zexthul continued. "You build weapons, you fight wars, you take what you want. The galaxy has seen species like yours before. They always end the same way." Lisa kept her voice steady. "And how is that? Dead or enslaved? But the Consortium is not without mercy. We offer you a chance to prove your worth." The alien gestured with one of its 4 arms. The room around them changed, showing images in the air like a movie screen. Lisa saw massive fleets of alien ships, worlds that had been burned to ash, and beings in chains working in mines and factories. "These were proud species once," the Admiral said. "They refused to accept their place in the natural order. They thought they could stand against the Consortium as equals. Their bones now fertilized the gardens of their betters." The images shifted to show other scenes. Aliens working alongside the golden-scaled HFY, but always in positions of service. Building their ships, mining their worlds, fighting their wars as foot soldiers. "But some species proved their worth," the Admiral continued. "They accepted wisdom and found purpose in service. They live, they prosper in their own way. They are content." Lisa had heard enough. "You want us to be your slaves. We want you to find your proper place in galactic civilization. There is a trial ancient and sacred. If you pass, your species earns the right to serve. If you fail, your species dies." The room fell silent except for the hum of alien machinery. Lisa felt the weight of every human life pressing down on her shoulders. Earth had billions of people who had no idea this conversation was happening. Children playing in parks, families sitting down to dinner, scientists working to unlock the secrets of the universe. All of them depending on what happened in this room. What kind of trial? She asked. Admiral Zexthel's scaled face showed what might have been satisfaction. The trial of worthiness. It has 3 parts. Combat, to test your strength. Mind, to test your spirit. Leadership, to test your wisdom. Complete all 3, and your species lives as servants of the consortium. Fail any part, and your species dies as a warning to others who might resist. Lisa looked around the room at all the alien faces watching her. Some seemed curious, others bored, as if they had seen this scene play out many times before. She wondered how many other species had stood where she was standing now. How many had knelt and accepted slavery? How many had fought and died? And if I refuse to take your trial, then your species dies anyway, but without honor. The fleets are already moving toward your solar system. They await only my signal. The choice was no choice at all. Lisa had joined the military to protect Earth and its people. She had sworn an oath to defend humanity against all enemies. This was just another enemy, bigger and stranger than any she had faced before. I accept your trial, she said. Admiral Zexthul gestured again, and 2 guards stepped forward. They looked like the blue-furred creatures she had seen earlier, but bigger and carrying weapons that hummed with energy. You will be taken to the prison levels, the Admiral said. The trial begins tomorrow. Use the time to prepare yourself, human. Many species have attempted the trial of worthiness. None have ever truly succeeded. As the guards led her away, Lisa caught sight of one more image floating in the air. It showed Earth from space, blue and white and beautiful. Home. The place she had sworn to protect. She would find a way to win this trial. She had to. Because the alternative was unthinkable. The prison levels were dark and filled with the sounds of alien voices speaking in languages she could not understand. Her cell was small but clean, with a sleeping platform and basic facilities. Through the energy barrier that served as a door, she could see other prisoners in their own cells. Most of them looked defeated. They sat in corners with their heads down or paced back and forth like caged animals. But a few looked up when she passed, and in their eyes she saw something that gave her hope. They saw something in her that they had not seen in a long time. Something that reminded them of who they used to be before they were prisoners. Lisa sat on the sleeping platform and began to plan. She did not know what the trial would bring, but she knew one thing for certain. She would not kneel. She would not accept that humanity was meant to serve these creatures who thought they owned the galaxy. Tomorrow, she would show them what humans were really made of. The guards came for Lisa at dawn, though she could not see the sun in this place. The energy shackles around her wrists made her hands numb. She had spent the night thinking about the trial ahead, running through every combat technique she knew. Sleep had been impossible. The corridor outside her cell stretched for what seemed like miles. Other prisoners watched through their energy barriers as she passed. A small blue creature pressed against its door and whispered urgently, "Human, listen to me. The arena is not what they tell you. They want you to break. They want you to show fear." Lisa slowed her pace despite the guards pushing her forward. "What do you mean?" "I am Pip of the Tenderfolk. We were peaceful traders before the consortium found us. I watched my champion die in that place. He was strong, stronger than any Kethfor warrior. But they broke his spirit first." The guards shoved Lisa harder. But she had heard enough. The trial was not just about fighting. It was about making her give up hope that the transport took her through sections of the ship she had not seen before. Massive chambers filled with alien technology stretched out in all directions. Thousands of different species worked at control stations and machinery. All of them wore the same expression of quiet acceptance. When the transport doors opened, Lisa stepped into something that took her breath away. The arena was huge beyond imagination. It sat in the center of a space station that orbited a dying red star. The walls curved up and up until they disappeared in shadows. Millions of seats filled every surface, and every seat was occupied. The noise hit her like a physical force. Alien voices in hundreds of languages created a sound like thunder. That never stopped. Some were cheering, others making sounds she could not identify. All of them were here to watch her die. At the top of the arena sat 7 massive thrones. These held the High Arbiters, representatives of the founding species of the consortium. Lisa could see Admiral Zexthil among them, his golden scales reflecting. The red light of the dying star. The arena floor was made of some kind of black stone that seemed to absorb light. Weapons racks stood along the walls, filled with alien tools of war that looked nothing like Earth technology. In the center of the floor was a circle marked with symbols she could not read. A voice boomed across the arena, speaking in the common language that her translator could understand. Citizens of the consortium, we gather to witness another trial of worthiness. The human called Lisa Martinez will face our champion in single combat. If she proves herself worthy, her species may serve. If she fails, her species dies. The crowd roared its approval. Lisa saw aliens jumping up and down in their seats, waving banners and making bets on how quickly she would die. To them, this was entertainment. Guards led her to the weapon racks. Choose, one of them said through his translator. Choose well. You will not get another chance. Lisa walked slowly along the racks, examining each weapon. Most were too large for human hands. Others required strength or reach she did not possess. Finally, she found something that might work. It looked like a sword, but the blade was made of contained energy that hummed with power. The weight felt right in her hands. An interesting choice, said a new voice. Lisa turned to see another alien approaching. This one was different from the other she had seen. It stood 12 feet tall and looked like it was built for war. 4 massive arms extended from its shoulders. Natural armor plates covered its body like the shell of some giant insect. Its head was small compared to its body, but the eyes that looked down at her burned with intelligence. I am Gorthic of the Bruthen, it said. Its voice was deep enough to shake the floor. I have fought in this arena for 20 cycles. I have killed champions from 47 different species. You will be 48. Lisa looked up at the creature that would try to kill her. She had fought pirates and smugglers, criminals who used every dirty trick in the book. But she had never faced anything like this. I'm Lisa Martinez of Earth, she said, and I don't plan on making this easy for you. Gorthic made a sound that might have been laughter. They all say that. The brave ones, the smart ones, the desperate ones. In the end, they all die the same way. The creature picked up a weapon that looked like a hammer crossed with a lightning bolt. Energy crackled along its surface with enough power to level a building. 2 of his other arms grabbed smaller weapons, while the 4th remained free. The arena fell silent as both fighters moved to the center circle. Lisa could feel millions of eyes watching her every move. The red light of the dying star painted everything the color of blood. A gong sounded somewhere in the distance. The trial had begun. Gorthic charged immediately, moving faster than anything that large should be able to move. His warhammer came down where Lisa had been standing a heartbeat before. The impact cracked the black stone and sent pieces flying. Lisa rolled to the side, her military training taking over. She had learned long ago that size and strength meant nothing if you could not hit your target. The Bruthen was powerful, but he was also predictable. The creature spun around and swung again. Lisa ducked under the blow and struck back with her energy blade. The weapon carved a shallow line across Gorthic's armor, but did not penetrate deeply, enough to cause real damage. The crowd was cheering louder now. This was lasting longer than they had expected. Most challengers died in the first exchange. Gorthic came at her again, this time using all 4 arms. Weapons moved in complex patterns that should have been impossible to avoid. But Lisa had spent years fighting in the chaos of space battles. She had learned to think 3 moves ahead while plasma bolts flew past her head. She waited until the last possible second, then dropped flat and rolled between the creature's legs. As she passed underneath, she drove her blade upward into a joint where the armor plates met. Gorthic roared in pain and staggered forward. Green blood dripped from the wound onto the arena floor. For the first time in 20 cycles, the champion of the Bruthen had been hurt by a challenger. The arena erupted in chaos. Some aliens were screaming in excitement, others in disbelief. In their thrones high above, Lisa could see the arbiters leaning forward to get a better look. But the fight was far from over. Gorthic turned around, and Lisa could see murder in his small eyes. No one had ever made him bleed before. No one had ever made him look weak in front of the entire consortium. "Clever little human," he growled. "But cleverness will not save you." He threw one of his smaller weapons at her like a spear. Lisa barely managed to deflect it with her blade. Before she could recover, Gorthic was on her again, moving with the fury of a wounded animal. This time, there was nowhere to run. Gorthic's massive form crashed into Lisa like a living mountain. She rolled with the impact, using his own momentum against him, but his weight still drove the air from her lungs. The arena floor was hard and cold against her back as she scrambled to get away from his reaching claws. The crowd was on its feet now, screaming in dozens of languages. They had expected a quick execution, not this desperate dance between predator and prey. Some were cheering for her, caught up in the excitement of seeing their champion challenged. Others howled for her blood. Lisa came up in a crouch, her energy blade held ready. Gorthic was slower to rise, favoring the leg where she had wounded him. Green blood still dripped from the cut, staining the black stone beneath his feet. "You fight like a coward," he snarled. "Stand and face me with honor." Lisa almost laughed. "Honor? You want to talk about honor while your people plan to wipe out my species?" She darted forward, striking at his wounded leg again. But Gorthic was ready this time. One of his massive hands caught her wrist, lifting her off the ground like she weighed nothing. His grip was like steel, crushing the bones in her arm. "Now you die," he said, raising his warhammer. Lisa did the only thing she could. She brought her knee up into the joint where his arm met his shoulder. The impact made him grunt and loosen his grip just enough for her to twist free. She fell hard but managed to keep hold of her weapon. Gorthic swung his hammer in a wide arc, trying to catch her while she was down. Lisa rolled desperately, feeling the wind from the massive weapon as it passed over her head. The hammer struck the arena floor with enough force to shake the entire structure. That was when Lisa saw her chance. The impact had driven the weapon deep into the stone floor. For just a moment, Gorthic was off balance, struggling to pull his hammer free. Lisa launched herself forward, using every ounce of strength in her legs. Her energy blade pierced through the gap in his armor at the shoulder, sliding between plates and deep into the muscle beneath. Gorthic roared in pain and rage, but she was not finished. She grabbed one of his fallen weapons with her free hand and drove it up under his chin. The blade punched through scales and flesh, finding the soft spot every warrior tries to protect. Gorthic's eyes went wide with shock and pain. The champion of the Bruthen, undefeated in 20 cycles of combat, fell backward onto the arena floor. His massive body hit the stone with a sound like thunder. Green blood pooled around his head, and his eyes stared sightlessly at the dying star above. The arena fell completely silent. Lisa stood over the body of her fallen opponent, breathing hard, covered in blood both red and green. Her uniform was torn. Her body was bruised and battered, but she was alive. She had done the impossible, and the silence broke like a dam bursting. The crowd erupted in a noise that seemed to shake the very foundations of the space station. Some aliens were cheering, others were howling in disbelief. Many were simply staring, unable to process what they had just witnessed. In the high thrones, the arbiters were speaking rapidly among themselves. Admiral Zexthal was leaning forward, his black eyes fixed on Lessa with something that might have been respect or fear. A voice boomed across the arena, cutting through the chaos. The first trial is complete. The human has proven her strength in combat, but the trial of worthiness has only begun. Lisa looked up at the thrones where the high arbiters sat. In judgment, she could see them clearly now, representatives of the 7 species that ruled the consortium. The one speaking was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal that pulsed with inner light. "I am High Arbiter Kendall," the crystal being continued. "You have surprised us, human. No lesser species has defeated a Bruthan champion in single combat for over 1,000 cycles. But physical strength is not enough. The second trial will test your mind and spirit." The arena floor began to change around Lisa. The black stone flowed like liquid, reshaping itself into something new. Walls rose from the ground, creating a maze that stretched in all directions. The dying star above was replaced by an artificial sky that showed swirling colors and impossible shapes. "Welcome to the labyrinth of mind," Kendall announced. "Here you will face not just physical obstacles, but the truth about your species. You will see what humanity really is, stripped of all pretense and pride. Many champions have broken in this place, accepting the wisdom of submission." Lisa walked slowly toward the entrance of the maze. The walls were smooth and white, rising higher than she could see. Strange symbols glowed along their surfaces, pulsing in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "What happens if I complete?" "Your maze?" she called back to the arbiters. "Then you face the final trial," Kendall replied. "But few have made it that far. The labyrinth shows truth, human, and truth is often more deadly than any weapon." Lisa stepped into the maze, and immediately the entrance sealed behind her. She was alone in corridors that seemed to stretch forever in all directions. The walls glowed with soft light that cast no shadows, making it impossible to judge distance or direction. She had taken only a few steps when the first vision appeared. Images formed in the air around her, showing scenes from Earth's history. Wars, battles, cities burning, people dying. The pictures were sharp and clear, more real than any movie or recording. A voice spoke in her mind, soft and reasonable. "Look upon your species, Lisa Martinez. See what humans truly are. You call yourselves civilized, but you are creatures of violence and destruction. Your history is written in blood." The images shifted, showing the worst moments of human history. Genocides, slavery, environmental destruction, weapons of mass destruction. All of it was true. Lisa could not deny what she was seeing. "Your species has brought nothing but suffering to your own world," the voice continued. "What do you think you will bring to the galaxy? Why should we allow such creatures to exist?" Lisa kept walking, forcing herself to look away from the visions. The voice was trying to break her will, to make her accept that humans were nothing more than violent animals that deserved to be destroyed or enslaved. But she knew something the voice did not seem to understand. Humans were capable of terrible things, yes, but they were also capable of incredible beauty and goodness. The visions were showing only one side of the story. "Show me the rest," she said aloud. The maze shuddered around her, as if her words had struck some kind of nerve. The visions flickered and changed, but reluctantly, as if fighting against her demand. Now she saw other scenes. Human doctors working, day and night to save lives. Scientists dedicating their careers to curing diseases. Teachers shaping young minds. Ordinary people risking everything to help strangers. Parents sacrificing for their children. Artists creating beauty from nothing. These are exceptions, the voice said, but it sounded less certain now. Aberrations in your violent nature. No, Lisa said firmly. These are humans too. You want to judge us by our worst moments? Then judge us by our best ones as well. The maze was changing around her, walls shifting and rearranging themselves. The voice was becoming angry, losing its reasonable tone. You cannot escape what you are. It hissed. Violence and destruction are in your nature. Submit to wisdom. Accept your place. But Lisa Martinez had not come this far to give up now. She had a species to save and a promise to keep. The maze could show her humanity's failures, but it could not make her forget humanity's potential. She pressed forward into the swirling depths of the labyrinth, ready to face whatever truth it wanted to show her. The maze stretched endlessly in all directions. Lisa had been walking for what felt like hours, though time seemed to move strangely in this place. The walls kept shifting, creating new paths and blocking old ones. Sometimes she found herself walking in circles. Other times the corridor ahead simply disappeared. The visions never stopped. They played out around her like ghosts, showing scene after scene from human history. Wars, famines, cruelty, and suffering. The voice in her head kept talking, always reasonable, always patient. Your species destroys everything it touches, the voice said. Your own planet bears the scars of your violence. Forests cut down, oceans poisoned, animals driven to extinction. Is this the legacy you want to bring to the stars? Lisa pushed through a section where the walls were covered in images of burning cities. The heat felt real against her skin, and she could smell smoke in the air. But she kept walking. Show me the forests we planted, she said. Show me the animals we saved. Show me the children we taught to care for their world. The images flickered and changed reluctantly. Now she saw humans cleaning polluted rivers, protecting endangered species, building solar panels and wind farms. The voice grew quieter. These efforts are too little, too late, it whispered. Your nature will always win in the end. But Lisa was no longer listening to the voice. She was thinking about something else. This maze was not just showing her visions. It was responding to her thoughts and words. That meant it was connected to her mind somehow. And if it was connected to her mind, maybe she could affect it too. She stopped walking and closed her eyes. Instead of fighting the visions, she began to create her own. She thought about her childhood on Earth, playing in parks with clean air and blue skies. She thought about her training academy, where young people from every nation worked together toward common goals. The maze shuddered around her. The walls began to crack. What are you doing? The voice demanded, no longer reasonable or patient. I'm showing you something you don't want to see, Lisa said. I'm showing you what humans can become. Her visions filled the air around her. Humans working together to solve problems. Scientists from different countries sharing their discoveries. Soldiers from former enemy nations fighting side by side against pirates and criminals. Children of different races playing together as friends. The cracks in the walls spread wider. Light began to pour through them, bright and warm. Impossible, the voice hissed. These are fantasies, delusions. Your species is incapable of true cooperation. You're wrong, Lisa said, opening her eyes. You've been alone so long, ruling through fear and control, that you've forgotten what cooperation looks like. Humans don't just compete with each other. We also help each other. We also love each other. The maze was falling apart around her. Chunks of white wall crumbled to the ground, revealing the arena beyond. The artificial sky above cracked like broken glass. Lisa walked forward through the collapsing labyrinth. With each step, her visions grew stronger and brighter. Humans exploring space together. Human colonies where different cultures lived in peace. Human ships carrying not weapons, but supplies for disaster relief. "Stop this," the voice commanded, but it was fading now, growing weaker. "You built this maze to break prisoners by showing them only the worst parts of themselves," Lisa said. "But humans are more than our worst moments. We're also our best moments. We're the choice to be better tomorrow than we were today." The last wall crumbled away, and Lisa stepped back into the arena. The crowd was silent, staring at the ruins of the labyrinth that no prisoner had ever broken before. In their high thrones, the arbiters were speaking rapidly among themselves. High Arbiter Kendall rose from his crystal throne, his form blazing with angry light. "A trial is not complete," he announced. "There is still the test of leadership. This will show the true nature of human command." The arena floor changed again, but this time it created something different. Lisa found herself standing on what looked like the bridge of a human starship. Through the view screen, she could see a human city under attack. Alien ships filled the sky, firing down at buildings and fleeing civilians. "This is a simulation of what will happen to your homeworld when we arrive." Kendall's voice echoed around her. "You have been given command of the defense. You have limited resources and 1 hour to minimize casualties. Every choice you make will be judged. Every compromise will be noted." Lisa looked around the simulated bridge. It was exactly like the bridges she had trained on, down to the smallest detail. The crew members were humans she recognized from her academy days, all looking to her for orders. "Captain," one of them said urgently, "enemy forces are targeting the hospital district. We can intercept them, but it means leaving the power plant undefended." Another officer spoke up. "The evacuation ships are ready to launch, but they need escort to get past the enemy blockade. We don't have enough fighters to cover both them and the ground forces." Lisa stared at the tactical display. Every choice led to losses. Every decision meant people would die. This was what the arbiters wanted to see. They wanted her to choose between civilians and military targets, to show that humans would sacrifice the weak to protect the strong. But they had made a mistake. They thought like conquerors, not like protectors. They saw only binary choices where humans saw possibilities. "All fighters, form up on the evacuation ships," she ordered. "We're going to punch a hole through their blockade." "But Captain," her tactical officer protested, "that leaves the ground forces without air support." "No, it doesn't," Lisa said, studying the enemy formation. "Look at their attack pattern. They're concentrating on high-value targets because they think like we do. They think the hospital and power plant are the priorities." She pointed to a section of the city that seemed less important. "Redirect our ground forces here. We're going to make them think we're retreating, then use the buildings as cover to launch a counterattack on their landing zones." "That's a residential area," another officer said, "full of civilians." "Which is exactly why they won't expect us to fight there," Lisa replied. "We evacuate the civilians first, then use their own tactics against them. They want to terrorize our people. Let's show them what happens when humans fight to protect what we love." The simulation played out exactly as she had planned. The evacuation ships escaped while the alien forces were distracted by the ground battle. The counterattack caught them completely off guard, and within 30 minutes, the invasion force was in full retreat. But more importantly, civilian casualties were minimal. Her unconventional tactics had saved both military objectives and civilian lives. The simulation faded, leaving Lisa standing alone in the arena. The silence stretched for long minutes before High Arbiter Kendall spoke again. "Impossible," he said, his crystal form pulsing with agitation. The parameters were set for failure. No species can maintain moral standards under such pressure. Lisa looked up at the thrones where the 7 arbiters sat in judgment. That's where you're wrong. You think morality is something humans abandon when things get difficult. But it's actually what defines us when things get difficult. Admiral Zextel leaned forward, his golden scales catching the light. Explain. You rule through fear, Lisa said. You conquer and control because you think that's the only way to maintain order. But humans learned something different. We learned that the strongest societies are built on cooperation, not domination, on trust, not fear. The arena erupted. In noise, as aliens in the crowd began arguing among themselves. Some were calling for Lisa's immediate execution. Others seemed to be questioning everything they had been taught about the natural order of the galaxy. High, Arbiter Kendall rose to his full height, blazing with fury. Enough. The trials are meaningless. This species is too dangerous to be allowed to exist. But his words were drowned out by the chaos spreading through the arena. Lisa had done more than complete the trials. She had planted a seed of doubt in the minds of every being watching. The reckoning was about to begin. The chaos in the arena grew louder with each passing second. Aliens were shouting at each other in dozens of languages, some demanding Lisa's death, others calling for her freedom. The careful order of the consortium was cracking before everyone's eyes. High Arbiter Kendall's crystal form blazed brighter than the dying star outside. Silence. He roared, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. The trial results are invalid. This human has contaminated the sacred process. Admiral. Zextel stood slowly from his throne, his forearms spread wide. The trials were completed according to ancient law, he said, his voice carrying clearly across the arena. The human has earned the right to speak for her species. She has earned nothing. Kendall's form flared even brighter. Humans are a disease that will spread through the galaxy if we allow it. Look at them. They refuse to accept their proper place. They question authority. They inspire rebellion. The other arbiters were dividing into 2 groups. 3 of them moved to stand. With Kendall, their alien forms radiating anger and fear. The remaining 3 took positions near Admiral Zextel, uncertain but willing to listen. Lisa stood in the center of the arena, watching the most powerful beings in the galaxy argue about her fate. The crowd was getting more agitated, some aliens, climbing over barriers to get closer to the action. Security forces were moving in, but even they seemed unsure of what to do. You want to know what humans really are? Lisa called out, her voice carrying in the sudden quiet. We're the species that looks at a broken system and asks why it has to stay broken. Kendall turned his burning attention to her. You dare speak. Without permission? I dare a lot of things, Lisa replied. That's what makes us human. We dare to dream of something better than what we have. We dare to fight for people we've never met. We dare to believe that cooperation is stronger than domination. She gestured to the crowd surrounding them. Look around you. You're perfect. System is falling apart because one human woman refused to kneel. What does that tell you about how strong your system really is? The arena fell silent except for the hum of alien technology. Every eye was fixed on Lisa as she continued. You built this trial to break me, to prove that humans were just another violent species that needed to be controlled. But you proved something else instead. You proved that your entire civilization is built on fear. Admiral Zextel moved closer to the edge of his throne. Explain. You have technology that could reshape worlds. You have thousands of species working together. You have the power to explore the galaxy and unlock its secrets. But instead of using that power to build something amazing, you use it to keep everyone else down. Lisa pointed at the watching crowds. How many of these species joined you willingly? How many chose to serve because they believed in your vision. And how many are here because they were conquered and broken? Murmurs rippled through the arena as aliens looked at each other with new eyes. The blue-furred tender folk in their section were nodding. The tree-like beings were swaying in agreement. Even some of the consortium's own soldiers were shifting, uncomfortably. "The human speaks truth," a voice called out from the crowd. It was Pip, the small blue alien who had warned Lisa about the trial. "My people were traders and explorers before the consortium found us. We wanted to share our knowledge freely. Instead, they made us into servants." Other voices joined in. Stories of conquest and forced submission. Tales of cultures destroyed and rebuilt in the consortium's image. The careful facade of willing. Cooperation was crumbling. High Arbiter Kendall was blazing so brightly now that the air around him shimmered with heat. "Enough! This contamination ends now." He raised one crystalline arm, and energy began to gather around it. The air itself seemed to catch fire as he prepared to kill Lisa where she stood. But Admiral Zexthol was faster. His 4 arms moved in a blur, weapons appearing in each hand. Golden energy bolts struck Kendall's crystal form, shattering pieces of his body and sending them crashing to the arena floor. "The trial is sacred law," Zexthol roared. "It will not be violated." The other arbiters chose sides in that moment. 3 of them attacked Zexthol with powers that defied description. The other 2 moved to defend him. The battle that followed shook the entire space station. Lisa dove for cover as energy. Beams and exotic weapons lit up the arena. The crowd was screaming and running for the exits, but many stopped to watch the impossible sight of their rulers fighting each other. The fight was brief, but devastating. When the smoke cleared, Kendall and his supporters lay dead among the ruins of their thrones. Admiral Zexthol stood over them, wounded but alive, his golden scales dulled with pain and exhaustion. "It is done," he said, his voice carrying across the now quiet arena. "The old order is dead." Lisa climbed to her feet, checking herself for injuries. "What happens now?" Zexthol looked down at her with something that might have been respect. "Now we find out if your species is truly ready for the conversation you mentioned." The arena doors opened, and aliens began streaming back in. But they were not the same creatures who had entered to watch an execution. Something had changed. In them, they looked at each other differently, spoke in quieter voices, moved with less certainty. The tenderfolk approached first, led by Pip. "What you said about cooperation," he said to Lisa. "Do you truly believe it? Or are humans just another conquering species with prettier words?" Lisa met his large eyes steadily. "We're not perfect. We've made terrible mistakes, and will probably make more. But we've learned that the strongest societies are built by free people working together, not by slaves serving masters." Other species gathered around, asking questions, sharing their own stories. The tree-like beings spoke of forests that had been clear-cut to build consortium ships. The crystalline creatures told of mines that had stripped their homeworlds bare. Everyone had a story of loss, of cultures erased and dreams abandoned. "Things can be different," Lisa said. "They should be different. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to thrive without anyone having to kneel." Admiral Zexthol approached. Slowly, his weapons put away. "Your words are easy to speak, human. Harder to live by. The consortium has maintained peace for 1,000 years through strength and order." "Peace built on fear isn't peace," Lisa replied. "It's just delayed rebellion. Look around you. How long do you think your system would have lasted? Another 100 years? 1,000? Eventually, someone would have said no. Better that it happens now, while we can still build something better from the pieces." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, studying the chaos around them. Aliens were talking to each other who had never spoken as equals before. Old hierarchies were dissolving as beings rediscovered their voices. "You entered this place in chains," he said finally, "and you leave with the heads of those who would have destroyed you. But more than that, you leave with something we thought we had eliminated from the galaxy." "What's that?" "Hope." Lisa looked around the arena at the faces staring back at her. Some were still hostile, clinging to the old ways. Others were curious, wondering what this new future might hold. Many were seeing a human clearly for the first time, not as a primitive to be controlled, but as an equal to be respected. "The trial is over," she said, "but this is just the beginning. Humanity doesn't want to conquer the galaxy or replace your consortium. We want to earn our place in it as partners. The question is, are you ready for that conversation?" As she walked from the arena, Lisa Martinez carried with her the weight of two civilizations' futures. Behind her, the old order lay in ruins. Ahead, the real work was just beginning. The galaxy would never be the same. And perhaps for the first time in millennia, that was exactly what it needed.